Welcome back to From Corporate to Cashflow. We're Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate investing and lending while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Ingryd Hernandez. Ingrid, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks so much, Ingrid. We're very excited to get to know you more. So, to start off here, we would love to hear about your journey into real estate, but let's back up a little bit. Like, did you have a regular corporate job? How did you get interested in real estate? And then finally, what are you focusing on in real estate today?
Yeah. So my journey into real estate, I actually in 2013 got my real estate license in my corporate job. I was in food service for almost 20 years with two very big food service companies, like in the top three food service companies in the United States. Um, but a bulk of my career was with the first one called US Foods. And as you know, with COVID, a lot of things changed for food service companies. But sorry, before that. So I had a really great mentor. And before 2013, he would tell me, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and encouraged me to actually look at other ways to also bring in income or diversify where I was investing. I remember him taking me even to this like stock trading type of thing, the seminar. It was interesting. And this is when like technology was starting to come around more. So like people who wanted to get into trading were starting to use technology that they just didn't have access before. And then I let him know, like, hey, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And he was actually flipping on the side. So he's been a great mentor. He's still a private money lender for me today. But he encouraged me to go and do more. And I really love that because he knew that I could take on a lot. He was the visionary for our department. He ran the department, and I was his integrator in the sense of, or operator, I would say. I would make sure things get executed. So he would hand down the goals, and I would make sure we met those goals. I didn't realize a lot of that would actually be very transferable skills when you go into entrepreneurship and kind of assess quickly what things are missing in running a business or doing things. But in 2020, when we started laying people off in food service because it was so greatly impacted, I was like, I'm laying people off who are very, very smart. I felt like it was just a matter of time before I was going to be let go. So that kicked me into finding, could I look for mentorship or anything like that so I could better understand real estate? Like, yes, I had my real estate license, but I've often said this that I feel like I didn't know anything about real estate until I joined the Sub 2 mentorship, where I was really needing to go knee deep into understanding, like, what is title, like what is the deed, like what are all those things that I've always just been letting other companies take care of, like your title companies, at least here in Arizona, because we're not an attorney state. There was a lot more, obviously, like once creative finance, there's a lot more instruments that get used, and things you have to be very aware of, like servicing companies, ways to take over existing mortgages, stuff like that, that I was never even exposed to a wholesaler during the time that I was a real estate agent, because the market was so healthy that my clientele never really needed a wholesaler for what I was servicing. So most of my clients were either downsizing, or they were moving out of state, or they were just looking for their first house. So nothing like, oh, this house is a hoarder house and you need a cash offer because going to the marketplace isn't going to do as much. So I never knew what a wholesaler was until I joined Sub 2. So yeah. And so I have a great empathy for lots of agents out there who've never known what a wholesaler was. And I would argue that wouldn't have known, just like me, until this market started getting rough, where now you're hearing there's two things. The market's getting rough. And so like there's wholesalers out seeing like what deals can they get. And then two, technology has gotten so good that people can actually solicit much further than they ever been able to. So when you talk about like, go high level CRM and texting and the blast that happen, I mean, I get bombarded with text messages every single day because I'm a business and my number is public. And so it's easy to see how quickly an agent would just get annoyed, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think many people actually probably have experience with that.
Yeah.
It's actually really funny though, because I mean, I'm not a real estate agent, but I had no idea what a wholesaler was before I attempted doing that too, right? And I just think it's so interesting to your point that lots of real estate agents don't know the full picture of real estate. And so there are just so many opportunities there. Actually, I have a random question because I've heard this debate a lot. Do you think it's better or worse or neutral to have your real estate license to be an investor?
I think where the law is changing, I have a clear answer. You should get your license if you haven't amassed your wealth yet.
Hmm.
So it's very different when somebody who has already strong influence, strong connections, they don't need their license because they probably already have like good collaborative agents that they already work with, like let's say Jamil or even Pace, right? Pace literally is married to his agent, so he doesn't need to go get his license. Whereas if you don't have those resources readily available, there's partnerships. I think the law is changing so often that and so quickly that I think it can become a distraction if you have to stop and go get your license. So, my brother, who wanted to get into wholesaling and understand more real estate very recently, like he literally got licensed, like he finished getting his license, I think a week or two ago. And I told him, I go, look, if you and I are going to work together on stuff, like I want you to help me with my agency stuff, my real estate licensed stuff, but go get your license so that we don't ever have to talk about it again. Like you'll
Mhm.
just have it and it's not a distraction. When we're in the middle of something, or like, hey, I need you to go open a lockbox and you can't because you don't have your license. And I don't want to be, you know, unscrupulously sharing my like stuff with him so he can go open up a door. Like I'd rather just be legit.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I can appreciate that. And then circling back, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're focused on today in real estate?
Yeah, so I have two main focuses. One is growing creativelisting.com, where I'm a co-founder with big guys like Pace Morby and my other pal Raz, who's our main developer. And the creative listing platform predominantly right now single family houses, but we want to have all types of assets on there, businesses, commercial real estate, we have land and single family houses, but we built out with features and data points that you couldn't see in other platforms. So that's what differentiates us from like a Zillow. Like if somebody wants to do a lease option or a wraparound mortgage or sub two, it's really easy to filter and find those deals versus a Zillow that maybe focuses more on traditional. And for us, we're more a niche marketing component. Now, I will say we just crossed more cash offers than creative recently because we are seeing that a lot of wholesalers are finding value in posting their cash deals on our platform as well. So it's been really great to kind of be able to be that niche catch-all for folks who are just trying to disposition their deals. And so that's my number one. We're trying to get to 100,000 by June, and we are trying to monetize it. June being our 1 year anniversary, by the way. Um, thank you. And then the second priority I have is I'm focusing on a done for you model, both on the residential and commercial side of things. So if investors who have the means, but they don't want to babysit deals, they would come to me and I would show them like, hey, here's like the just getting started people who kind of need more hand holding on the done for you model. Like they want to get into fixing and flipping or rentals. We focus on the Ohio and West Virginia market, or those who have amassed more wealth and they just need these really great cap rate commercial deals. I'm partnering with a company who has a lot of really great opportunities, mostly here in Arizona. So having my license allows me to help with those types of deals as well.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's a lot going on. First of all, congrats on the website. I think that this is obviously a really great idea. To your point, the natural question is, well, how is that different than like Zillow or something else? So to your point, to have the ability to list those creative options on your website is so awesome because as everyone knows, a lot of time it can be very difficult to find those like on Zillow. Searching for keywords, half the time you can't find it in the listing. You have to be a real estate agent, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that that's super awesome. And I'm wondering if you could maybe just give us a little bit of history or maybe like rationale of why that website.
Oh yeah. So the way it got started was kind of like a two-way. It was like a divert, like a, I don't know how to say. Two streets kind of collided, and both of those had Raz involved. So Raz wanted to move to Arizona from Seattle, and at the time, I had a deal under contract that it was actually a house I wanted to keep. I was like, this house is so gorgeous. It was like a modern hacienda. It was gorgeous. Like you shouldn't fall in love with your product, and I definitely was. But a lot of the deals that we were getting in Arizona were not really translating to be able to sell to investors because there was no cash flow. But the interest rate was great, and the monthly mortgage payments were really aligned with what people would pay to go finance a deal. And in fact, this one in particular, I believe his interest rate was a 4, which you couldn't see any longer. So this was a couple of years ago. Market changed in summer of 2022. Tell me how I know, or ask me how I know. And so when Raz was looking at this property, he really very much calculated like, okay, if I were to go get a loan, how much would I have to pay for this property? Or do I just take over the mortgage even though my entry fee was higher? The seller had a large portion of his mortgage that he hadn't been paying. So his arrears, or like what he was behind on, was fairly high. And so what Raz needed to bring to the table was, I can't recall now, I think it was in the like $70,000 or $75,000 to make the deal work. And it was pretty hefty. Now, again, somebody who doesn't need to see a return on investment per se, like a family, may think like, oh, well, once I do my math, this is actually a more prudent choice because I'm going to get a loan that's already started. I think the loan had been in place for a good 2 or 3 years. So as you guys may know, when you look at a loan that's 30-year amortized, the first 12 to 15 years are front-loaded interest. So you're paying a huge portion of your payments every month as interest. So Raz understood that. And so it's better to get a loan that's already started and has, 3 to 5 years already on a loan. And then when I helped him with that, it was one of those where like, man, it would be so great if we had just one place to find these opportunities for people who are just looking for a primary home. And then the other way was I created this very janky landing page for all of these contracts that me and Pace were getting when we were doing these challenges, the No One Left Behind challenges. Getting the contracts was easy. Selling the deals was difficult because our audience was largely investors, and we knew we had to go focus on people like Raz who needed to find these opportunities for their families. So basically, both Raz and I went to Pace about our experience with his deal, and then just in general wanting a central repository. And so Pace put us all in a room, and we talked about putting together creative listing, and that's kind of how it came together. We wanted to make sure that we can serve families who are looking for a good deal, and that we could serve investors who are looking to sell the deals that they have under contract.
That makes a ton of sense. Like, I have always found I do the dispositions for our wholesale team, and it can be incredibly difficult, especially when you have the types of deals that you're describing, to figure out how to market them appropriately. And creative listing has definitely allowed us to market it to an even broader audience. Do you have any idea of how the number of deals that have actually been done from creative listing?
So I only have soft data. I don't have a really strong data at this point, but I want to say it's close to 500 deals. But just based on what we can tell when things are tagged as sold or changed the status of the deal. But because we don't, just like Zillow, like we don't have a built-in requirement of how you disposition it through the tool, right? It's really just a marketplace. And so we are at the mercy of people who put their properties on there and then take them off to make sure that they're updating their status accordingly. So that's really my best guess at this moment.
Hey, but that's, even if it's half that number, that's still really exciting, especially to be the founder of a website that's creating those deals and making them happen. So congratulations for that. That's really freaking cool.
Thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
and much love to Raz, who I lovingly call him 1 week Raz, because I will come to the table with like a feature that I think I'm getting a lot of feedback from people like, hey, could we do this? And I'll give it to him and be like, hey, what do you guys think? Here's my idea on how to make that work. And he just like executes on it. And so I've been in, because of my corporate experience, I've been the middle person between like the nerds and then like the salespeople or the business people. So I've always been the translator. So it's been fun to continue kind of that role that I used to do and be able to see it come to fruition as an owner, which has been really, really cool. In fact, speaking of dispositioning, Andrea, that we have a new feature that just got rolled out this past week, where before, since we're like a sign-in wall type of platform, so you can't just browse, you actually have to go in to browse. One of the things that we did differently recently is if you do have a listing on there, you can share that link, and that link will give you kind of like a sneak peek of the property so that when you're sharing with other folks, they're more enticed to click and actually log in. Whereas before it was just a creative listing link and it really didn't attract people to actually click into it. So we
Ah,
hope that that makes a big difference for people trying to dispo.
that's really cool. That's a helpful feature. I think I saw that you guys had rolled that out, so I'm gonna have to look into that for myself. I appreciate that. So I was wondering, I know you mentioned during COVID there were some changes in the food service industry. When did you actually leave, and what made you make that decision? Or are you still in that role now?
Yeah, no, great question. So in 2020, we all were ordered to work from home. And then the strategy that we were supposed to have to kind of help save jobs was not put into place. It was kind of taken back. And so, I was really scared at that moment, to be honest with you. And then again, being very realistic about how food service and restaurants were impacted. And by the way, I didn't know this, right? I told you guys that I didn't know what a wholesaler was. I literally was a wholesaler. That's what I was. In food service as a distributor, but we called it distribution. We would buy from different manufacturers, house them so it's easier for a restaurant to be able to buy, or a hospital or a school. They'd be able to buy all of these things all at once instead of having to go to each different manufacturer to buy these different products, right? It's exactly what a grocery store is. A grocery store, you don't go talk to General Mills and Kellogg's and Kraft, or I think Kraft is General Mills. I don't remember now, but no, I think it's Kraft Heinz. But you don't go to each of those to go buy like your groceries. You just go to the grocery store and you can go choose all of these different manufacturers' products all at once. So technically, a grocery store is a wholesaler because they have to buy it low enough to then sell it retail high enough to make money, right? And they make a margin. Same thing in food service. You negotiate all of these deals with all of these manufacturers. You have to buy in bulk and low enough, and then you sell it for a profit. So same thing with a wholesaler. They have to buy it low enough with the homeowner, contract it low enough, and then sell it high enough to make a profit. So I didn't know that's what I was doing. But I would argue a lot more businesses are wholesalers than I ever thought before. So um, so when the business changed and we all had to work from home, and again, like I took to bigger pockets, and YouTube University started learning more about real estate investing. Luckily, Jerry Norton and Pace Morby hit my YouTube pretty hard, and my husband and I decided to join the Sub 2 mentorship. But we knew we wanted an exit plan. And I'm just risk averse. I've seen people where they're like, I quit my job and I went to go do this real estate thing, gun ho. And I just don't have that kind of personality. I was the primary breadwinner in my house. And so I didn't have the luxury to do that either. I felt maybe it's a limiting belief of mine, but so then I started flipping on the side, and leveraged my resources. So my husband was a resource. He was a full-time real estate agent, so I could easily ask him to go and check on XYZ while I was still working, right, and producing. And then uh, once March 2024 came around, that was the year I was laid off, and if several other people were laid off as well. I saw the writing on the wall, and so that's why I had built a fix and flip business here in Arizona. And luckily, when that happened, it still hurt because you're like, oh, dang it, it happened. And I actually almost quit the summer before that too. I was like, okay, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to leave. And actually, somebody very high up in the organization asked me to stay. They even like took time during during Father's Day to come come talk to me and have coffee and be like, no, just stay. And so I decided to stay out of like respect for our friendship and what I knew what was happening at the organization. So I was like, okay, I'll stay. But yeah, when I was finally let go, I was like, okay, at least this comes with a severance. So that was nice to have like that little padding before you left, and be able to kind of make my next step. But for me, it was really important to kind of have more income being generated before I could just step away from my W-2.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And one of the reasons that I got into real estate investing as well was a very similar thing. I've gotten laid off from jobs more than once, just with a change in the company. And so it's nice to have something as a backup plan, a fallback. And once it happened the first time, I kind of pivoted into content creation. And then I realized I didn't really love doing that full time. And so went back to work, and at that point in time really fell in love with real estate investing and started exploring all of that. And that's been my backup plan for this time, because it probably will happen again, just the nature of the type of job that I'm in. It's one of those inevitable change things. And so it's nice to kind of have that as a background thing that you can fall into. So I appreciate you sharing that. Thinking about, you've learned so many things. I mean, you've done so much cool stuff along the way, and I've been able to be a part of your journey and see you and the growth. And wondering if you could just share with us the biggest lesson that you've learned that you wish knew earlier in your journey.
Biggest lessons that I wish I knew earlier in my journey, I think it's twofold. One is, before you're partnering up with people, make sure you absolutely know each other's roles and responsibilities and how that performance looks like, and know what your divorce looks like before it happens, because it's going to happen. Like, the more and more I'm around, like, okay, people's partnerships fall apart all the time. And it's just inevitable. Even Pace has told me, he's like, every partnership ends, even your marriage, somebody dies first for the most part. So like, even if you take it all the way to the end. So I was like, okay, so he made me more comfortable with really not feeling like a failure when one of my partnerships didn't like last. And then the second is really making really honest assessment of whether or not you're doing money making activities. Like, I see a lot of people who are not really progressing or moving the needle forward. And a lot of it is that they are not maximizing their time. People ask me all the time, like, how do I do everything I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't watch Netflix. I really, if it's not my daughter playing soccer, I'm real estating all the time. Like, I don't know how to not do real estate. So I think some people are just not honest with themselves about where they're putting that extra time into.
Yeah, 100%. I really don't think people understand how much time they spend watching Netflix or, any of the other things, whether it be social media, internet, et cetera, et cetera. So it's interesting that you say that because the term, like, you're not being honest with yourself, like with your time. I totally agree with that. And I would almost hate to do my own assessment of what that looks like, but I think it's something that everyone needs to do, right? And I wanted to go back to a comment that you made that someone said, how do you do everything that you do? So my question is, and I don't know if this has changed or not, but since you moved from the food industry to becoming like full blown real estate entrepreneur, do you have any new habits or routines to keep you on track with all these things that you were tasked with?
Any new habits? Mm, well, I will say that before finding a mentorship, I wasn't really like book reading person or really into podcasts and stuff like that. I feel like ever since hitting entrepreneurship, there's been a huge reset on my mindset. Like I had to become a different person than I used to be. And that included educating myself all the time. Again, I don't know how to turn it off. Maybe when I shower, I put music on, but otherwise, I I am always listening to a podcast. I'm like trying to keep up to date, like what's happening in the economy. I know folks say, you have to turn some of that off, and I mildly agree. I do think if you're going to be responsible for other people's money in terms of real estate and things like that, you do have to be aware of what's happening in the market, and you have to be a responsible investor in that way. And that should also dictate like how risky you're taking some things or not. Like I'll give you an example. Like cap rates are starting to change, and they're changing big time, and we're seeing like really terrible stories coming out in commercial real estate. Well, it's because everybody assumed that the cap rates were going to stay the same, but they're not. It used to be 4 to 6% for like Class A deals, and now they're getting way more looser. Now they're like 7 to 10% requirement on Class A assets. So like really nice apartments, right? And it feels unpredictable a little bit because who would have thought that that would be the level of change? But one thing I've learned the last 5 years is like every year comes with a few unprecedented, which is kind of annoying because I'm like, I would love some more precedented, if you will. I feel like unprecedented is like happening way too often. And so now I'm like, what is the normal? And unfortunately, some of the big names we know in real estate are getting caught up in that.
Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about, but I like that you said that, some people recommend to turn it off, but you're actually like doing your due diligence to listen to that and to understand your audience and to give them like proper advice, right? Because the last thing that anyone wants is to be taking advantage of someone, right? That is saying that they're doing the best for you. So I can definitely understand that perspective of wanting to understand and have the news going on and understand kind of like what's out there. So that's a very good point. So I know we had already asked you about some other piece of advice, like what do you know now that you wish you would have known before? But I'm also curious, since you do read so much and listen to podcasts and you are this learner that doesn't turn off, what about like some basic financial advice in like 30 seconds for someone that's newer to like their financial journey? Maybe it's like about savings or how to manage your money, just anything along those lines.
Mm. Well, one of the things that I remember Caroline Kane telling me was make sure that before you pull the plug and go all in on real estate, make sure that you're consistently performing how much money your goal is to have at least 3 to 4 months in a row. So, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty simple." Like, if I haven't hit those 3 to 4 months of that particular number, and at one point it was 40,000 for me, like, I was like, "If I'm not hitting that number, then I am not ready to move on 100%." That maybe have been really conservative, but for my risk aversion, it felt like that was the right number. And so I would say for somebody who is thinking about leaping into a real estate investing career and doesn't know a whole lot about finance quite yet, um, you know, the other piece of that is you can't save your way to wealth, but I would first just start exposing yourself to like podcasts and books that you would normally not listen to. that can give you some of this guidance. The book that I really enjoyed was called The Secrets of a Millionaire Mindset by T. Harv Eker, because there were some things I didn't realize that I was carrying forward. And at the very least, it helps you know yourself and what truths you think you know about money and how that shapes how you'll be able to perform, whether it's in real estate or whatever, like what your thermostat is for making money. Like where's your thermostat set at?
Yeah, that's I read that book a long time ago, and I need to maybe revisit that one because it's been a while, but that's a great recommendation, especially for someone getting started. So thinking about maybe a little more of a fun question, and this may be just depending on what you were talking about with your daughter, maybe not for a bit, but Liz and I have a goal to travel, explore the outdoors, and have fun alongside of our wealth building journey. So wondering if you have any upcoming bucket list travel that you're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of years.
Interesting. Well, I would really like to get to Spain. I have family that live there. My goal was to go watch Bad Bunny, but one of my big deals didn't close. So I'm like, darn it, I think I'm going to have to wait on that. And then my husband's 45th birthday is coming up, and I'd really like to get us back to Hawaii because he really, really loves it. So I love to travel too. I'm Colombian. I'm from South America. And I feel every time I go, I have to go visit family. Otherwise, I feel really guilty. But I really want to make it to Cartagena too, which is, on the Caribbean, like beach set front. Because where I'm from is not. Where I'm from is a little bit more mountainous, a little bit city. It doesn't really have the beachfront, and I've yet to see it. So those would be like places I'd really like to get to.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Maybe an extended hop over there or something next time you do the family thing.
My mom was like, if you're planning on doing that, go on vacation first and then go see family so that I'm not guilted into spending maybe what I would have with family and then not be able to get to Cartagena. I was like, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Or tell them to meet you there since you went all the way down to Colombia. I mean, that seems legit, right?
It's a little tough. So I come from a very a poor family. I don't know how else to make that sound better. But yeah, so I don't see how my family could meet me in Cartagena, but it's a nice thought though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can people work with you if they'd like to collaborate with you, bring you deals? What are you looking for? Give us some insight into that.
Yeah, I'm still updating my website so that it's more geared to the done for you models that I am focusing on. But in the meantime, IngrydHernandez.com, that's my website where people can see, for the most part, I'm looking for bigger assets for myself as somebody looking to buy. However, from an active income standpoint, like that's not necessarily my active income goal. Active income is more of this done for you model where we can help folks get rentals or flips or commercial real estate in a way that meets like what they're looking for. So yeah, IngrydHernandez.com, or people can reach out to me on my Instagram at Ingryd with a Y. So INGRYD_Hernandez on Instagram.
I love that. I love that. And a great way to get in touch with you as well. We appreciate having you on the podcast today. It's been so great to get to know you better and also learn so much from you just in general through your journey and watch you. I mean, I feel like one of the coolest things was it Squad Up Summit where you negotiated that deal on stage, like in front of everyone. I was just like, oh my gosh, that was so cool.
Yeah.
So being like a part of that has been so awesome to just watch you progress. And that was a huge audience. Like what it was Squad Up, right?
Yeah. I think there was almost 3,000 people in the audience, and out of all the boys on the platform, I was the only one who got a contract.
Yeah. I'm here for it. That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you everyone else for listening to this week's episode of From Corporate to Cashflow. We will catch you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.